Folks, I saw an interview a little while ago given by Laura Ingraham. She was interviewing Trump, and I thought it was funny, and not funny, haha, but funny like, would you get a load of this? And it also kind of reminded me of something that happened to me earlier this week, which was also kind of funny, and that was funny in a haha kind of way. So let me share this with you, and I'll see you on the other side. Take a look.
The economy was listed as a top concern. I know you know this for voters in New Jersey, New York, Virginia. I know you've been all over the affordability issue today and for the last several months. Eggs, gas, dinner costs for Thanksgiving way down. But other things, as you noted, have gone up. Beef, coffee,
but they're gonna come
auto
down very
repairs.
shortly.
Is this a voter perception issue of the economy, or is there more that needs to be done by Republicans on Capitol Hill, or done in terms of policy?
More than anything else, it's a con job by the Democrats. They're saying, they just have to say, they put out something, say today costs are up. They feed it to the anchors of ABC, CBS, and NBC, and a lot of other, and CNN, and et cetera. And it's like a standard. I'll never forget, they had used a word like manufactured. Do you remember the word manufactured? It's a manufactured economy. Nobody uses that word. Every anchor broke the manufactured. They do exactly what they say. It's such a rigged system. So are you ready? Costs are way down. Gasoline is going to be hitting $2 pretty soon, or around $2. Gasoline is at $2.70 now, and it was at $4.50 under Biden, under Sleepy Joe. When gasoline comes down, when energy comes down, and everybody agrees energy's down, we're drilled, drill baby drill. We're going like wild. We produce more gasoline, oil and gas in the last month than we ever have before, by far.
Okay, so I went to this old-fashioned place known as the grocery store earlier this week. And as I'm walking around the store, I'm noticing that the prices of groceries are a bit higher than I'm accustomed to having seen. But I'm not worried about it. So I went to the cashier and I loaded up my food on this thing called, are you ready for it? Conveyor belt. And when the cashier finished, the amount was twice as much as I thought it should have been. So, I was a little surprised and I said, are you ready for this? That's not the right price. Your prices are wrong. She said, no, sir. No, I scanned these by hand. I didn't enter any, I scanned these. I didn't enter any of these prices by hand. And so I said, you see, this is a simple misunderstanding. Now, you guys remember that word, misunderstanding? Nobody uses that word anymore. Anyway, those prices have to be wrong because the president said that unaffordability is a lie and it's just a con job by the Democrats. So all you have to do is, are you ready for this? Just match the prices to my reality. And then everybody stood up and cheered as a big burly man with tears in his eyes, ran up to me and said, thank you, sir. So naturally, I am not welcome at that grocery store, the Bigly Cheap Foods store. But that's fine because, I wasn't crazy about the fact that they were forcing me to show my ID there. Obviously, that only happened in my imagination. But the point is, Donald Trump has made a bunch of promises that he has been unable to keep. He promised to lower the price of food on day one, for the price of groceries, to lower them on day one. He promised to end the Ukraine war after 24 hours. He has not done that. He promised to expose, to reveal, to release the Epstein files. He did. We weren't asking him for it. Some of you, if you are MAGA out there, some of you guys were asking for that, but we certainly weren't. But he promised. his attorney general, Pam Bondi, said she was going to release it, and she didn't release it. So the whole point of this is some of these things, maybe they're meant to be distractions, maybe they were lies, but the fact is they were promises that he made and promises that he broke. So today we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the shutdown and what happened there, why it wasn't as big of a loss as a lot of Democrats feel like it was. And we're going to get into why the sudden appearance of these Epstein emails is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump. So I hope you're ready, because I am. Let's go. Story time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. I am so glad to have you here with me. It has been yet another crazy week. I will be shocked if a week goes by and it hasn't been crazy. This week has felt like a month. So many things have happened. As you know, the government is no longer shut down. And also, as you know, despite the fact that, I will admit it did feel like a kick in the groin. I was blindsided by it. I'm not trying to sell you guys. I'm not trying to blow any smoke up your ass, but it's not as big a disaster as people initially felt. One thing I did want to share with you is that, we have cats here. we officially have 3 cats, and there's one who is an outside cat, but she's kind of more of an inside cat these days because she's pregnant. She is with kitten. We don't know how many kittens, but she is very, very, very pregnant. So I have insisted, and I still insist, we do not have room for a 4th cat because we've got 3 cats and a dog. And, and so this outside cat, her name is Birdie, and I don't know if I can, wrest that cat away from wifey. It's going to be problems. So anyway, I did my best to keep my emotional distance from this kitten, and it has worked, kind of, but at the end of the day, I am a softie. We'll see what happens. So anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into. Oh, wait a minute. What am I saying? Let me say a quick hello to my friends in the audience here. I see at the top here we got William Ewing. Any relation to Ewing from the from the Knicks? David Campbell says Trump is an effing idiot here. Rosetta mic drop. I'm showing these are folks. Says he wouldn't know gasoline if it was pumped straight up his fat Trump rump. These are folks who are chiming in and sharing from Twitter. So I thank you for your commentary here. Wow, there's quite a few of you here. Spank Flaps is here. Ness from Connecticut. Meredith Powell. Bernadette H is here. Lucy L. Aries Wanderer. Valerie G. Samantha Hawkins. And I will say this to some of you who are sharing, who are like watching on Twitter. I do appreciate when you share this stream. It's very helpful, to, getting the show spread out there. But also, feel free to join in on the conversation, the chat here. These are wonderful people. I highly vouch for them. Sharon Landry is here. The Trump Reaper. So yeah, it's a nice, lively conversation. It's a great community of folks. Joanne Kennedy, Tina Bradford. Okay, so if I missed any of you guys, I know I've missed quite a few. Stella Baxter. In any case, I will catch up with you throughout the show. Thank you for joining us. But right now, I'd like to get on to our stories of the day.
Stories of the day.
We also have someone in Boston, Jen Staley, visiting her son, Burr, but it's so fun to be in a very blue state. Glad to have you here, Jen. Okay, so as I said, oops, there we go. Our top story of the day, or the main theme, is the emails that end him. And yeah, I know, I have been one of those who has been, we got him now. We are a meme, folks. Those of us who have said, now we look, if you can't laugh at yourself, then I don't know what. But let's see. Elon Musk canceled me and my Twitter account. Oh no! Sorry to hear that, Joanne. Okay, so at the top we've got shutdown. The shutdown is officially over. We're going to talk briefly about what the hell was the point of that. The 8 people who betrayed us. You know, it feels like, it absolutely feels like a betrayal. Like they kind of went off and did their own thing instead of sticking with the team. But let's also account for what we achieved. And yeah, we did achieve something. The affordability crisis is not just housing, and I don't know why that thing is there. It's housing. It's the cost of groceries. It's the cost of electronics. It's the cost of furniture. Everything is up. Some of it is due to the fact that that Donald Trump is an idiot and has imposed tariffs on everyone. And some of it is just because, the economy, the whole system is kind of rigged against us, the little people. So let's see. And last but not least, Donald Trump has an email problem. But his emails, he's got a big email problem, and it is actually looking like it could fracture. If it doesn't fracture the Republican Party, it could mean an early exit to his presidency. Before I forget, please, if this is your first time here, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. The like button is the thumbs up right there, and the subscribe is in the lower hand corner of your screen, lower right hand corner. Thank you so much. And Clint Dorsey says the system has always been rigged. And he wants to know, do you really believe that Repubs were going to do the right thing? So here's the funny thing, right? No, but there's a caveat with that. MAGA is full of people that include somebody like a Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie has been leading the charge to release the Epstein files. And who else is on board with him? None other than Miss Crazy herself, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and give her a hand, Lauren Boebert also. So, Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in MAGA in general, but I am leaving the door open for the possibility that some of them might snap out of their fever. And that is partly why I wrote this week's Substack. It's called You Were Lied To: What Happens When the Illusion Finally Cracks. So let me give you a brief what's up with that article, right? It is an open letter from me to MAGA. I've written a bunch of these before, and half of the time I've been like pissed off, and they were very insulting. And I was careful with this one to not make it as insulting. In fact, I cut all the way back on the insults in this, and I'm just basically trying to say, look, I'm going to give some of you the benefit of the doubt that when you say you voted for X, you didn't also vote for Y and Z. And the Y and Z is what we're getting into in this article. So let's see. I have an excerpt here. You wanted America first. Trump sent $40 billion to Argentina while American farms are failing. And he's asking the courts to block funding for SNAP benefits. That was one of the most shocking things I think I've ever seen. And I'm including from his first term. I mean, like, to block, he's having fancy parties and blocking SNAP payments for our nation's most vulnerable is obscene. Trump promised a new golden age, but the only gold is being plastered on the Oval Office and his new ballroom, while record numbers of Americans stand in line for food assistance. He said he would target the worst of the worst. Instead, his untrained ICE agents are grabbing U.S. citizens off the street, grandmothers, grandfathers, long-term legal residents, racially profiling your friends and neighbors. You won the argument about who gets to drive the car. Fine. It's not the point anymore. The point is, the greedy, vengeful driver you chose is steering the car off of a cliff. Everything you thought you voted for, lower prices, better jobs, security, it never mattered to him. The only goal was enriching himself and his billionaire donors. Look, folks, the point of my Substack is that there's a lot more that we, believe it or not, we liberals, progressives, Democrats, have in common with MAGA, the people who you love to hate and who love to hate you back. Now, I'm not asking anybody to hold hands in a circle and sing Kumbaya. That's unrealistic. That's not going to happen, at least not today, not next week or next year even. But I am asking us to start looking at the things that we have in common. And there are quite a few. We have a lot more in common with each other than either of us have with the billionaires who are cleaning the hell up in Trump's economy. When I say cleaning up, I mean they're getting rich like fat cats. Here's my if ever there was a picture that encapsulated what this Trump presidency is, I mean, he's not even trying to pretend to care about the little guy. This is a guy who got elected because he was spewing something that made a lot of you think he cares about me. Me, the little guy, the invisible person that nobody else sees. He sees me. No, he doesn't. I guarantee you he doesn't. The things he's doing are causing pain for all of us. And he doesn't give a shit. There are millions of people on Snap, millions of Republicans, millions of MAGA. You think all the people, every last single person on Snap is a Democrat? Come on now. all he cares about is how fancy he can make this White House. Doesn't that strike any of you as peculiar, as bizarre, that is the focus? That's what he's focused his time and energy on. Is that what he was campaigning on, guys? Was he campaigning that I promise to make the White House the most glam, golden? He didn't promise. He didn't promise that stuff. That's not what his campaign was. He said he was going to make stuff affordable, and he used that word. He used the word affordable multiple times. And then, just earlier this week, he said, I don't want to hear about affordability anymore. Affordability is a con job. What? Affordability? You're saying affordability is the ability of those of us on the bottom rung of the economic ladder, the ability of us to survive, the ability of people working 2 and 3 jobs, but still need SNAP to feed their families, the ability of people who are about to lose health care. And then what are they going to do? Choose between paying a medical bill and keeping the lights on? And this guy is busy blinging it up. That's obscene. And if you can't see that, you are in denial. It's nothing but gold. And it's not even real. I think a lot of this is fake gold, to be perfectly honest. I think it's like sprayed on. I swear I've seen some of those moldings in Home Depot. Pretty sure. Yeah, we got food lines. Is this the golden age that Donald Trump promised? Food lines in America? The last time we saw food lines was, guess what? COVID. It's COVID. Greatest country on earth, food lines. While he's having Great Gatsby parties, women sitting in great big martini glasses. This is the funniest shit. So now, remember I said this week was crazy? This came out this week. The Trump administration prepares tariff exemptions in bid to lower food prices. So it's going to take some of the tariffs off of certain food items. Why? Because he wants the price to come down. So he's never going to admit he's wrong, but just by doing so, it is kind of an admission that, oops, I shit the bed there. If the proposal goes into effect, it would be the latest rollback of one of Trump's key economic policies over concerns about affordability. Yeah. Everybody knows. And the fact that he's got his people out there going on the news shows on Fox News saying, oh, the price of groceries is coming down. No, it's not. Look, you guys had a shit fit when President Biden and his folks were out there saying the same thing. He's like, oh, you can't tell us that things aren't expensive when they are expensive. And that was right. That was absolutely right. At one point, inflation was up 9%. I think that was in 2022. Inflation was up 9%. And then it steadily came down. It came all the way down to like 2.7% in October of 2024. By the time Biden left office, January 19th or January 20th, 2025, that inflation rate was at about 3%. You know what it's at now? It's also at 3%. Prices are still going up. Let me talk about this 50-year mortgage idea. I got into an argument. Oh, I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but I trimmed the shit out of my beard this week. Let me blow this up full screen. This is the shortest I've had this beard in years. I just felt like, I was ready for a change. So I have an excellent barber. Her name's Steph. And we got into a spirited discussion about this 50-year mortgage. And naturally, I felt it was preposterous because it's a 50-year mortgage. For background, I only bought my house, my first house ever, in my mid to late 40s. I'm 57 right now. If I had bought it on a 50-year mortgage, what am I going to be working until I'm 85? Thank you for coming to Walmart. Who the hell wants to work into their 80s and 90s to pay off a house? God forbid. If you're even lucky enough to make it into your 80s and 90s. So her point is, at least people will have a chance to buy a house young. But I'm like, yeah, but you know what? The interest that they're going to end up paying on that. Here's a graphic here that shows the median age for first-time home buyers. In 1981, the average age was 29 years old. And then in 2021, it was 33. Now it's 40. So the average first-time home buyer is 40 years old. So I wasn't that, off the curve. I was a little bit over the curve, whatever. But yeah, 40 is old. So if you're a first-time house buyer and you take a 50-year mortgage, you could be 90 years old paying that thing off. So what happens, right? So, okay, let's say you don't make it. Let's say you kick the bucket, God forbid, you kick the bucket at 80. And then you got 10 years left of payments. So what happens to those payments? What happens to your house? Your kids get it? Can they afford to pay off the rest of that? Does the state get it? Does some rich fat cat get it? Does some rich asshole like Donald Trump get it? Does the real estate mavens, the people who are waiting for people to die, do they get your house? So you don't get to leave behind some generational wealth? Is that what happens? See, what irritates me about this 50-year mortgage, right? Look at the this is a mortgage calculator, right? Let's say you were to buy a house at $500,000, which is, I guess that's about average what houses are going for now. 30 years of interest, you are paying $616,000. So you end up paying $116,000 in interest over the course of that 30-year loan. But at a 50-year interest, you're going to end up paying $1.2 million. What? What angers me about this is that Donald Trump is a real estate guy, right? People credit him. The reason a lot of people give him credit is because he's a business guy, so he should know better. Right? This to me stinks of like predatory scam. It's like you're taking advantage of the fact that people are desperate, right? Instead of trying to figure out a way, Kamala Harris had a plan to build more houses. Because how do you bring the price of housing down? You increase the inventory. But what he's proposing is to keep people enslaved by a mortgage for 50 fucking years. I'm sorry. I was trying to not drop an F-bomb because I feel like as often as I drop them, I feel like YouTube is like, nah, screw this guy. Put his videos off to the side, but whatever. I'm fucking pissed. He knows better. He knows how the system works. He, of all people, should be able to come up with a better idea than that. Better. Instead, he's busy. He and this jackass JD Vance are busy blaming, of all people, they're blaming undocumented immigrants for the rise of, for the lack of inventory in housing. He says here, a lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? He says, because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. Now, folks, I'm not a real estate expert or a banking expert, right? I only just bought my first house, in the past decade, okay? But if you're going to buy a house, don't you need to have at least more than just a minimum wage job, number one? Number two, don't you need a social security number? Because last I checked, I don't think that undocumented immigrants get social security cards, social security numbers. Correct me if I'm wrong. So how are these banks giving out loans for $1.2 million or however much money for people for 30 million? So the amount of undocumented immigrants has gone up to 30 million people. Come on, man. When we wake up tomorrow, it's going to be 50 million. There are two kinds of people in this world, right? There are people who look to blame someone, and there's people who look for solutions, right? If we were all in a boat together, a big ass boat, and that big ass boat developed a hole and there was water just gushing into the boat, threatening to sink all of us, not just Democrats, Democrats, Republicans, independents, people who don't vote, everybody is going to sink unless we fix this hole in the boat. You got people like JD Vance and Trump who are like, it was Joe Biden. Joe Biden did it. It's Joe Biden's fault. Instead of like, can somebody hand me some spackle, some of that Flex Seal? Let's get some Flex Seal. Let's get some engineering experts who can figure out how to patch the hole in this boat. You guys here, you start bailing out, and somebody get some towels and blah blah blah. Let's fix this and worry about whose fault it was later. Where was I here? Oh, here's another guy looking to scapegoat immigrants here. The HUD Secretary Scott Turner. And I want to say, I find it interesting that for 2 terms in a row, Donald Trump appointed the few black people in his cabinet as over HUD. HUD stands for Housing and Urban Development. So it's the U in that, the urban that said, let me put the black guy on that. He's going to know about black guy things. So Scott Turner says, I want to get to the root. Over 12 million illegal aliens, he says, came into our country, which has put a great strain on our housing supply and affordability. So pay attention when you start seeing things like that pop up here, there, and everywhere. That's their latest approved messaging. We're going to blame immigrants for the lack of housing inventory. But meanwhile, what are they doing? What is the Trump administration doing? They are deporting the people who would be building the houses that we need to increase. You can't make this stuff up. You want to increase the supply of houses, but you are deporting a large chunk of the people who are really good at building houses. I don't know if you guys have ever seen some of the videos they put up of like Mexican construction workers who, like, not only do they bust their ass, but they make it look fun how they build houses. They're so good. So good. There are a lot of undocumented immigrants who fix houses when these southern cities get hit by hurricanes and tornadoes and storms. That's who comes in and does the hard ass work. Those undocumented immigrants. If you happen to have noticed the quality of your fruit and vegetables dropping off, being a little bit shittier, yeah, that is because they are scaring away the farm workers. Not only are they scaring them away, they are deporting them. They are creating problems that we might not realize until after Donald Trump is gone. So the shutdown ended, and it ended when so I want to say it was 8 people, right? But really, most of the time, there were 3 people who were already on board with Republicans. So it was 5 of them. Not that it makes that big of a difference. The threshold that they needed to cross was 60 votes, right? Now, Republicans were steady trying to blame Democrats, saying this is the Schumer shutdown, which is absurd because Republicans control the Senate. They control the House. They control the White House. They even control the Supreme Court. But Majid, they needed 60 votes. That means they needed 7 Democrats. So what were the 7 Democrats just going to cut their own head off and vote without anybody reaching out to them and trying to negotiate a deal? Well, I guess not, because the shutdown ended and the Democrats who went along with it, they didn't really get anything. They got nothing. They didn't get any. All they got was a promise that the Senate will hold a vote in December on extending ACA subsidies. That's it. Nothing in writing, just like trust me, bro. That's it. And that is a damn shame. So yeah, the Senate ended a record, I think it was 42 days actually. Excuse me. Shutdown with SNAP funding, omits ACA subsidies. U.S. Senate passed a 60-40 continuing resolution late Sunday, ending the 40-day government shutdown that furloughed 800,000 federal workers and disrupted services nationwide. Here are the 8 people, the 8 senators: Maggie Hassan, Janine Shaheen, Angus King, who is an independent, Tim Kaine, Dick Durbin, John Fetterman, damn it, what's her first name? Cortez Masto, can't remember her first name, and Jackie Rosen, right? Those last 2, I think, are both from Nevada. And yes, they broke ranks, and the Democratic Party was rightfully pissed off at them. But here's what their point of view was. Their point of view was, at the end of the day, the people in my state are hurting. They need to get back to work. We have all these planes that are, these flights being canceled, and, we don't have enough air traffic controllers. And it was getting to be unsustainable. And on top of that, there was no end in sight for Republicans. Republicans were here like, yeah, that's too bad, huh? You got poor people are starving. Yeah, so sad. Too bad, so sad. They didn't give a shit. So really, it was only the Democrats. Democrats are always the grown-ups in the room. So it was really us against us. It was a matter of how long could we stand to watch our fellow Americans suffer at the end of the day. But remember, I mentioned earlier that it wasn't all, bad news. The good news is that, Democrats made it clear who is fighting for ACA subsidies, the Affordable Care Act subsidies. These are the subsidies that allow our healthcare insurance to be relatively affordable. I'm not going to say affordable, because some people it's too much. I'm not saying the ACA is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It could use some tweaking. It could use some fixing. I could always go for cheaper anything, anything cheaper. But with the ACA subsidies expiring, we're looking at premiums going up by 114% in some cases, 200%. I saw some estimates where, like red states, they were supposed to go up by 380 something percent. That's ridiculous. It says here 3.8 million more people will eventually become uninsured. Why? Because they can't afford it. So they're going to drop out. And then it says many middle income families will experience a double whammy, losing all financial assistance available through the tax credits and paying higher premiums as insurers raise rates. So that plan that Donald Trump promised years ago, said it's 2 weeks, we'll have it. He hasn't come up with any plan. He's got no plan. The plan is there is no plan. Except now he thinks he wants to cut out insurance companies getting payment and giving the money instead to the patients. Again, this is that same mentality as the 50-year mortgage. Like, you think you're going to give us, what, $2,000 and that's going to take care of our health insurance needs for the year? Do you have any? He has no idea how much health insurance costs. He's probably never had to buy it. He's never even had to worry about it. He's a billionaire. But those of us who know, those of us who sit down and have to fucking fill out our checkbooks and pay for that shit, we know. People are paying tens of thousands of dollars for health insurance. So is the government going to give us that? No. You're going to have to fend for yourself and work it out with these insurers who are going to, they're going to ensure that a lot of people die. Because at the end of the day, their bottom line is make as much money as you can. And they're not making as much money if they're paying out claims, insurance claims. The good thing about Obamacare, I prefer to call it the Affordable Care Act, because Obamacare automatically makes MAGA angry. Oh, Obama, I hate Obama, so therefore I must hate hate Obamacare. But I like that Affordable Care Act, though. It's the same thing, you dumbass. The good thing about the Affordable Care Act mainly is that you cannot be denied insurance if you have a pre-existing condition. And I don't know how many people have pre-existing conditions. Like most people have pre-existing conditions. You were allowed to keep your kid on there until they turn 26. It's great. So Democrats are fighting. They're still fighting. We haven't given up yet. But that was the main takeaway. That, that extended fight, 42 days of fighting, and they were putting it on Democrats and saying, oh, it's Democrats shut down. So people had to look at this fight and say, why are the Democrats fighting? And they tried to lie and say, oh, they want to give illegal immigrants health care. There's a law against that. You can't do that. So that's a lie. You just want to ensure that Americans have subsidies to help them afford health insurance, period. And Trump, here I have video of this, admitted he hates the Affordable Care Act because it is called Obamacare. Let me see this thing here. Here.
Will go down. Everything. I'm not just talking about recently. I'm talking about for years they've been going up. And he said premiums will go down. Everything will be wonderful. It's horrible health insurance at a very high price. And what I want, and probably what you're alluding to, is the fact that I want, instead of going to the insurance companies, I want the money to go into an account for people where the people buy their own health insurance. It's so good. The insurance will be better. It'll cost less. Everybody's going to be happy. They're going to feel like entrepreneurs. They're actually able to go out and negotiate their own health insurance. And they can use it only for that reason. That's the beauty, only for that purpose. And if we did that, that would be so exciting. Call it Trump care, call it whatever you want to call it, but anything but Obamacare. Obamacare is a disaster, just like he was as a president. And I'm not just talking about recently. I'm talking about for years they've been going up. And he said premiums will go.
So yeah, that's his big gripe. It's that it's named after Obama. That's what he hates about it. Look, if you want to come up with a better insurance, do that. Do that. I'm fine. Yeah, you want to save us some more money? Do that. You want to give us more more benefits? Do that. Improve on this. I'm fine with it. I don't give, when I was born, we didn't have Obamacare or the ACA, In fact, when I was younger, my family was dirt poor until my mom finished school, became a nurse, and then she had her nursing insurance, which I think is $11.99. But prior to that, it was just my mom, single mom, and we had Medicaid. That was a lifesaver. We had Medicaid and we had SNAP. It was food stamps back then. Came in a little booklet with perforated things, and you would tear it out and you would pay for it. And when you paid for it, people knew that you were dirt poor because you were paying with food stamps. 9 times out of 10, it didn't matter because more than half of the whole neighborhood was on it. So, get back to this thing here. So, okay. So finally, at the end of the shutdown, Representative Adelita Grijalva was finally sworn in, which was a big, momentous occasion. I believe she brought 2 of the victims, of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, with her, and they got a standing ovation. That was fantastic. And she also signed the discharge petition that will finally enable the House to vote on releasing the Epstein files. Now, I'm pretty sure there's over 100,000 files all in. There's a lot of files there. And there's been a bizarre fight to prevent these files from seeing the light of day. Bizarre. And I say it's a bizarre fight because, Donald Trump insists that he is, innocent? I don't know. He hasn't said much about it. The guy has been suspiciously, the only thing he says about it is that it's a hoax, right? It's a hoax. But it's not a hoax. That's for sure. So this vote next week, initially people were thinking that there was only going to be a handful of Republicans that, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, et cetera, But more and more, it's looking like this is going to be this is going to turn into a referendum of, do you support pedophilia? Do you protect pedophiles or not? So, I'm pretty sure Republicans do not want to be caught out there being like, running up against their opponent for the House. And that'll be it. This person voted to protect pedophiles, and that's all you need for your ad. And then today we found out that a company named Courier has created a searchable database with all 20,000 of the files just released from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Trump's name appears in them more than anyone else. 1,628 documents. Holy shit. Wow. That's a lot of times to be mentioned. Now, it pertains to Jeffrey Epstein, right? It's not like your name appears in the files of a weatherman or a state senator or a career gambler. No, your name is coming up 1,600 times in the files of a notorious child sex trafficker. That ain't good. That is not good. So now Trump's idea is to deflect from this disaster he's making this disaster worse. If you're innocent, then just come out with the files, be done with it. And he's going after Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, and I think J.P. Morgan and Chase he's also going after. So that's interesting. But specifically, what's interesting is the Bill Clinton thing, right? So just today, or last night, I started seeing pictures. This picture popping up all over the place. It looks like Trump is reaching for Bill Clinton's junk, right? And I'm like, this is silly. This is not seriously. I was like, this is frivolous nonsense. What is going on here, right? And it was popping up all over the place. And then I saw like people making jokes about Trump giving Bill Clinton a blowy, and I was like, wait, what? Wait, how are you getting that from this dumb picture, right? And I didn't realize that there was an email that corresponds to this. I'm just going to show you one or two of those memes. So one was Clinton strongly denies sex with Trump. I did not have sexual relations with that man. And here's the email. So down below, he got an email. Jeffrey Epstein got an email from his brother, Mark Epstein, saying, how are you doing? And he's asking about his pre-diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go up, and then Mark appears to ask him, he says, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. I was like, what? Oh my goodness. And then Mark Epstein later on writes, you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. So, I don't know if that is legit. If it's legit, maybe it's just two brothers, trash talking shit, right? And I hope that's all it is. I say that because I don't want that to be fake. I don't want to find out that this thing was doctored, because God forbid if just one email, if one email is doctored, it's photoshopped, that comes out, then maybe the whole thing is suspect, right? And that could be Donald Trump's get out of free card. They'll say somebody could be listening to me say that now. That's the ticket. Call it fake. Call it fake news. Call it Photoshop. Then we'll have to get some experts in there to, forensic the shit out of it. So there are things that we know, and there's things that we don't know about the Epstein files, right? About Donald Trump's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein and what he did or did not do with Jeffrey Epstein. But here's what we do know, okay? We know that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. We know that he was pals with Trump for at least 10 years. We know that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. We know that he died mysteriously in custody of Trump's DOJ. We know that Ghislaine Maxwell was his co-conspirator, and she helped him with his child sex trafficking, for which she is now serving 20 years in prison. We also know that after a brief meeting with Trump's Assistant Attorney General, Todd Blanche, that suddenly Ghislaine Maxwell has a cushy deal where she's been moved from her previous medium security prison to a minimum security prison with a cushy setup where she gets custom meals made for her and special privileges. She even gets puppy time. Puppy time. Mind you, the move from medium to minimum security, that had to be approved high up. So we also know that Trump campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. A big deal was made out of this thing, and specifically to hold Epstein's clients accountable, many of whom I assume were expected to be Democrats, because that's why there was such a big feeding frenzy around it. We know that, what's his face? What's his name? The eyes guy, Kash Patel. Kash Patel was all gung ho about let's release those files. Put your big boy pants on and get those files out there. And then all of a sudden, Kash Patel got a look at what those files were, and then his energy changed 100%. He was sitting in an interview with Joe Rogan, and all of a sudden, Kash Patel was as meek as a church mouse, and he was like, well, I don't think there's anything there. You know, and that was like one of the few times where his eyes decided to meet, to get together. As recently as February of this year, Pam Bondi insisted that the list was on her desk, only to make a complete reversal after being told by Kash Patel what the hell was in those files. And then she was like, there is no Epstein list. It does not exist. And then Trump changed his tune. So then he said there was no list. And then he said there was a list, but President Obama and Hillary created it. Then he said it was a hoax. And then he released the Martin Luther King Jr. files that nobody asked for. We also know that he has never once said something nice about the victims. He's never said, I wish the victims well. He did, however, say that about Ghislaine Maxwell. He wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. Not one negative, nasty thing to say about a convicted child sex trafficker. He said plenty of nasty things about Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, AOC, a Catholic bishop who asked him to show mercy. Same thing goes for Jeffrey Epstein. He hasn't said one negative thing. The furthest he would go is to call him a creep. We also learned that Donald Trump said that that Jeffrey Epstein was no longer welcome at Mar-a-Lago, but it's not for the reason that Caroline Leavitt would have you believe. It's not because he found out that Epstein was a pedophile and therefore he was persona non grata. No, it was because he found out that Epstein was stealing his girls. Stealing them like they were property. Yeah. And then he was pissed. There's plenty of interviews, like when he's on the plane, he told reporters that, yeah, that's right. It probably was Virginia Giuffre. We also know that Caroline Leavitt is now lying on Donald Trump's behalf about the Epstein files, and she has no problem doing it with or without her her hanging cross. So what don't we know? We don't know how many pedos are in those Epstein files. We don't know who they are. We don't know exactly how many victims there are. And we don't have evidence that Trump committed crimes with young girls. We don't. And that's why we need those files to be released. We do, however, are starting to be able to fill out a fuller picture of what was going on. There was a lot of discussions with Trump, about Trump, et cetera, between him and Jeffrey Epstein. This just came out in one of the emails. It was quoted as saying, "I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump." And that's referring to, Trump hadn't said anything about Jeffrey Epstein's activities. He went on to say that a victim had spent hours at my house with him and that, quote unquote, he has never once been mentioned, again, without directly identifying whom he was referring to. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. There's one email. Blank, Mar-a-Lago, blank. So all that's redacted. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So he knew about the girls. He doesn't say women. He doesn't even say young women. He says girls. You don't use the word girls if you mean women. And this one here is between Epstein and Michael Wolff, the writer. Michael Wolff says, I hear CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? And then Wolff responds, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. So they are already planning on how they are going to use the knowledge they have about his activities with Jeffrey Epstein, use those to manipulate and calculate how they can leverage that against Donald Trump. So naturally, the emails came out, and yes, that's right. Joanne Kennedy says blackmail and extortion. And this cartoon says it all. Hillary's emails, lock her up. Epstein's emails, they're all smiles. There's nothing to see here, folks. Nothing at all. And this is just a random thing that happened this week that I saw, and I watched Megyn Kelly's quote, and I'm gonna play this for you. I think I added this here. There it is.
As for Epstein, I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby. And that is what
All right. So sorry. I just think I just had enough of that. Um, so I'm not even sure what was the point in bringing up that anecdote that where you were splitting hairs between, an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old, and somehow trying to calculate uh, that a 15-year-old is somehow acceptable. Uh, she's saying it's not like he was into 8-year-olds. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. Like, yeah, we know that, but a 15-year-old is still a child. And Ali Samarco here says this is career ending for Megyn Kelly. Her career has actually already ended long before this. 15-year-olds are children. They can't drive. They can't see R-rated movies. But disgusting 50-year-old men should be allowed to R them goodbye forever. And I'm sorry, folks, that I'm saying R instead of saying the word out loud. I don't know if YouTube is penalizing people for saying that. So you know how it is. So yeah, Donald Trump, at the end of the day, we know that he has had fantasies about his own daughter, that he is a very sexualized person. They say that all this is a hoax, but his entire life, they're saying, I watched Caroline Levitt be cornered by one of these journalists, and she kept pressing on, what do you mean is the hoax? And what Caroline Levitt said was that, well, the hoax is that Democrats suddenly care about holding people accountable. They suddenly care about victims. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? What did you think who do you think was behind the whole Me Too movement? Do you think that Me Too was Republican led? No, it wasn't. In fact, I think I think there was a whole reaction against the Me Too movement by Republicans. But yeah, Democrats have been concerned about holding people accountable. Look at what happened to Al Franken, for crying out loud. Has anybody forgotten Al Franken? How he was forced out of the party? Well, not forced out of the party. He was forced out of his senatorship for a picture that was 8 years old, in which he was, it was a dumb picture, but he was a comedian at the time the picture was taken. So he was pretending like he was going to squeeze some woman's boobs, I'm not defending the picture. I'm just saying, like, we have kicked people out of our party for less than the things that Donald Trump has been accused of. He's been credibly accused by dozens of women, one of whom got an $88 million judgment against Donald Trump. So, yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire. It's also known that his own wife, his first wife, Ivana, accused him of that. And then she recanted it. I think that might have had something to do with, with alimony or some kind of financial settlement or something. So I can't say, but because I don't know, but I do know that it is in her book. And you tend to not put things like that in your book, because you're pissed off at somebody, I think, especially the father of 3 of your kids. So Republicans, stop acting like this guy is a saint. He is a jackass who had openly admitted to going into the dressing room where teenage girls were getting dressed, and he would often see them naked. And he felt like he had it like that because he owned that beauty pageant. Stop acting like, if this is the hill you want to die on, protecting a pedophile, good luck to you with that. And speaking of monsters, I told you guys I was going to watch Frankenstein last week, and this was starring the incredible Oscar Isaac. And it was a great movie. Actually, was really good. I realized that I had actually never sat through a whole Frankenstein movie, like never. None of the black and white ones. Not that one. I think that was Robert De Niro was in. Never sat through a Frankenstein movie. This one was excellent. I really did enjoy this great deal. Whiskey Wench says here, if someone is accused of a crime, they will hand over anything that exonerates them. Donald runs away like a rat at every turn because he's guilty as Faheezy. Yes. Oh, actually, that just reminded me. Let me show you quickly. Speaking of running away, here. And my good morning tweet from the day was this. I love Lawrence O'Donnell.
Here's what Donald Trump looks like when he is absolutely terrified of even hearing the word Epstein. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Are you prepared to engage with the Democrats now? Thank you very much. Mr. President, can you respond to these Epstein emails that were released today? That was Donald Trump last night in the Oval Office during this program, refusing to answer a single reporter's question. And he had those reporters rushed out of that room without him daring to answer a single question. He was afraid of taking a single question. And every shouted question at him had the word Epstein in it. And that is pure fear on Donald Trump's face. Pure fear of the word Epstein and pure fear of saying a word in reply to those questions. That was last night. This was today. The silent man, strolling out of that room in fear of that word Epstein that he was hearing from that reporter.
Like a chicken shit that he is. All right, so I was talking about Frankenstein, great movie. Just started watching this show on Apple TV from the creator of Breaking Bad, that is Vince Gilligan, and the name of the show is Pluribus, as in E Pluribus Unum, which I think it kind of makes sense if you know what the plot of the movie is about. She is, if you watched Better Call Saul, she plays Kim, Saul's girlfriend or wife. And in this show, she plays the most miserable person on earth. And there is a virus that I guess breaks out. And it's a virus, I guess, being that was engineered by aliens. And the aliens kind of take over everyone on earth except for her and 11 other people. Right? So everybody else on earth, it's like the mind virus. They're like the Borg, or like the Borg. Like they all think as one, right? So you can have one, like a kid who has the knowledge of a heart surgeon, and also has the knowledge of a nuclear physicist, because they're all part of the same singular mind. And how she and the other 11 people react towards these alien controlled people affects them. Like if she gets angry at them, if she yells at one of them, like 20,000 people die somewhere on the planet. it's very bizarre. But it's a really cool show, and I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it and see where this thing is going. And Being Eddie was something I watched on Netflix last night. It's basically a documentary about like Eddie Murphy's life, and it shows, he talks about, his coming up and how he found comedy, and about his brother, and Saturday Night Live, and his movies, and shows his really cool mansion. It's a cool show. If you're a fan of Eddie Murphy, you will enjoy this a great deal, which I did. And that, my friends, is pretty much it. That is what I have for you today for Storytime with BDD. So, do you guys have any questions for me? And while I wait for your answer, let's see what this person has to say here. It says, the people defending Trump know he's a bad guy because if these were Biden allegations, they would go ballistic with attacks on Biden. Their hypocrisy is cringy. I agree with you. I wish I knew what your name was, so I would just call you Symbol. Looks like the Taurus symbol. Whiskey Wench says either it's a hoax or Donald kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a pedo, like Caroline said, in which case it's kind of not a hoax. And exactly. And if it's not a hoax, and he did indeed know that Epstein was a pedo, why didn't he say anything about it? Why did he not take credit for that? Bradford asking if we did a show with JoJo this week. I did not. JoJo is still having issues with her heating systems, so she had to postpone until next week. Congratulations to the Grad Kitchens. Thank you very much for that. And let's see, what did you and Wifey call the outdoor pregnant cat? Wifey named the outdoor pregnant cat. The cat's name is Birdie. So the two oldest sisters are Mars and Cookie. And then the younger one is Sunny. Our dog name is Rainy. And the outdoor is Bird. And that is all. So thank you again for joining another episode of BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. And for watching, this is the first time UW and love the show that you've had. And folks, I will be here next week. So I look forward to seeing you here, same time, same place. Love you all. Peace. What's happening here? What is happening? Oh, we're having a little bit of a delay, is what. Okay.